Lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Oh, it's a Monday. It's a Monday, and the sports content that we have for today makes it seem like it's a Monday. Welcome into Locked In on the KREF Sports Network, Ref Sports Radio Network. We're the home of Sooner fans. Grayson Singleton here, along with Tyler McComas, who's coming to us from Cavens, where he will be doing the rush today from 3 to 6. This hour of KREF programming, as always, brought to you by our friends at Duce Geralds Buick GMC. What a sports weekend. We had the Final Four. Alexander Ovechkin is the new goals leader. It was a fantastic sports weekend. Steely and I talked about Oklahoma City losing to my Lakers. I'll be at the game between Oklahoma City and LA tomorrow night as well. So a nice little extended couple of days as well. National championship tonight and a bunch of visits that we need. Well, really two that we need to get to here on Locked In. What's up, Machine Gun McComas? How you doing?
Man, I mean, you came in and you're acting like you have a case of the Mondays or something, saying it's sports content for a Monday. I mean, we're bringing the juice today, right? I'm
Come
just
on now.
making sure that you were sounding excited there and not bummed out like, oh, man, we have nothing to talk about here.
Well, Tyler, you know, you've been doing sports radio for a while. You know Monday is the exciting day in sports radio.
Well, it depends on if what happened on the OU football game the Saturday before. If they just got beat by South Carolina after trailing 21-0 after the first 5 minutes of the game, I don't know if I'd call that exciting. But, nah, man,
That's valid.
there's a lot to talk about from this weekend and a lot to get into with recruiting.
Yep.
And you and I didn't talk about this in pre-show prep, and we can get to it for a few minutes before we get into the visits. But a new Rivals 250 is out, and two fascinating, and I mean fascinating prospects in OU's class or targets in OU's class. One rose up and one significantly fell down. So we need to get to that in a few minutes as to how that could shape this recruiting class.
Let's get to that at the back end of this segment. So new Rivals 250 coming up. Let's call it in about 9 minutes or so. But we previewed the visit of Duce Geralds last Friday, and he was here in Norman. And we have some quotes. We have some thoughts from On3, and Steve Wilfong wrote this article on On3, and I'm just going to give you the headline. Oklahoma a front-runner for the nation's number 5 defensive lineman, Duce Geralds. And we'll start there. Now, Rivals has him as the number 2 defensive tackle. So anywhere you slice it, he's a top 7 defensive tackle in the 2026 class. This was Duce Geralds on the OU culture. Quote, "The culture and the people are amazing. There is a lot of respect for the program as a whole. They have a winning tradition, and it seems to put an emphasis on getting back to that winning culture. The attention to detail and the constant check-ins with the guys in the room to be sure they retain information is something I see them put an emphasis on." Tyler, it seems like Oklahoma made a pretty good impression on the Georgia defensive tackle, and all of a sudden you're in another prime position to get a guy who could be a real contributor in his freshman year, a la what Jaden Jackson did this year, man.
Yeah, well, another great impression, right? Because that wasn't his first trip to Norman. We talked about on Friday. He made a visit back last summer, and maybe it was August or September last year. So Duce Geralds, I mean, by now he kind of knows the lay of the land in Norman and kind of what he would be getting into if he ends up committing or signing with Oklahoma. But it's still really nice, even though this was like his third visit here, to still get quotes like that. And he even had the additional quote of, "I like the opportunities I'd have to come in early and compete for playing time as a young guy."
That's where I was going next.
And then that essentially he wants to take another visit here. So I would guess that this is not his last visit at Oklahoma. Are they the front runner like the headline said? I sure hope so. But it does feel like you are in decent shape here for one of the best defensive tackles in all of college football. A position you can never have too many great players at that spot, man. You just as many as you can get.
No kidding, especially in the SEC. You want to have as fortified of a trenches as you could. But that was the other thing that stood out to me in this article from On3. Gerald said, I like the opportunity that I'd have to come in early and compete for playing time as a young guy. And if you certainly watch his tape, he is a guy who could potentially earn that. He is the all-time sack leader at his school, which, by the way, before you guys come at me, he's the all-time sack leader at his high school. His high school produced Travis Hunter. So just keep that in mind, too, that this is a very prestigious high school in the state of Georgia. So the fact that he's coming in with that sort of a pedigree, his body looks very college-ready. If you've seen some pictures, if you've seen the highlights of him, he looks college-ready. And you come off of the fact that Todd Bates just got Jaden Jackson to a freshman All-American type performance season in his freshman year. So a lot of things look to be lining up, but especially for a guy like him who's hungry and wants to get on the field and make a contribution quickly, Oklahoma's a place among all the other schools that have offered him. And again, Oklahoma's going to fight a battle with a lot of these schools for Duce Gerald. He seems like he's in a really good spot. Oklahoma seems like it's in a really good spot, given the fact that this is a team that is just coming off a year where a freshman defensive tackle, Duce Gerald's position, made a huge impact.
Yeah, and Duce Geralds, to my knowledge, has only made one mistake thus far. And I had this down on Friday, and I totally forgot to get to it. But when he announced last week, he put out on social media, I'm excited to be back in Norman this weekend. Mm-hmm. You see that a lot from prospects, right? You know, they tag all the coaches. He did that. And you normally attach a photo of the stadium or the coach or, whatever. You attach the photo along with the visit. And Duce Geralds did that. I'm excited to be back in Norman this weekend. And it was a photo of Nick Anderson celebrating.
I saw that.
All right, man. I mean, first off, you're a defensive lineman, so throw out Gerald McCoy or Jaden Jackson or someone else, not a wide receiver. But Canick the Kryptonian, who's a normal on our text line, was the first comment that popped up to me. Please don't use that traitor's pick to announce an OU visit. So if that's the only mistake he ever makes, he's in pretty good spot. But no, the kid's good, man. 6'3". 270 pounds, a top 40 player nationally, and you use all the tools that you can at your disposal. Here's Gerald McCoy once again on social media trying to help Oklahoma out. GK likes to try and help out with those big-time defensive linemen. He responded, not surprised, everybody loves going home. So you got GK in your corner trying to pursue these defensive linemen. It's never a bad thing.
Gerald McCoy may not resonate with Duce Geralds as much as he does with you and me, because Duce Geralds is still probably, 16, 17. So by the time he became cognizant enough, Gerald McCoy may have been on the downturn or the latter part of his NFL career. I mean, but he still could have used like a Nick Bonito or sort of something like that, not Nick Anderson. Let's pivot from one side of the trenches to the other, because Cooper Hackett, who on my pre-show rundown that I sent to Tyler accidentally called Carter Bryant, as if we were talking about
is that the freshman at Arizona basketball?
As if we were talking about a small forward at Arizona. But no, Cooper Hackett, he's from Fort Gibson, was also on campus this weekend. Offensive tackle, 6'7", 250. He's in the 2027 class, and he's damn good. Now, before I get to how good he is as a tackle, watch his basketball highlights. I don't know if any of you have, Tyler. I don't know if you have. But this dude reminds you of Aaron Gordon with the way he can jump and dunk the ball. I mean, he looks like a dude that could be playing tight end at the next level, not necessarily offensive tackle, but he's really, really good. And 6'7", 250 already as a 16-year-old, that presents a lot of promise.
Well, you played high school basketball and you played AAU. When you have a kid that is that young and already at 6'7", 250, what do you normally get out on the basketball court with a guy that young that is already that tall? Not very coordinated. He just kind of looks funky. He's not smooth. And I can't remember if Teddy and I were talking about this off air or if it was on air. But you're right, man. You go and watch his basketball highlight tape, and the kid's smooth. Like, he's 16 years old. He's 6'7", 250 pounds. And he's not awkward out there running around like, he's got to grow into his body a little bit. He's really, really athletic, and that's why I think he's such an intriguing prospect in the 2027 class. Anytime you get, an offensive tackle at 6'7", 250, maybe you start to get excited a little bit. But, man, I mean, he's really got the athleticism to match the size. And, the size really stuck out to me this weekend when all of those photos from OU practice were emerging. Cooper Hackett is standing next to Teddy, and Cooper Hackett is noticeably larger than Ted Lehman. Ted's not a small dude.
Nope.
But the one that really got me is he was standing next to one of the best tackles in all of the NFL, Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson, 6'6", 325. This kid's at 16 years old, and it was very noticeable that he's taller than him. Now, he's not as thick. Lane Johnson's 325 and Cooper Hackett's 250, but that was just kind of an interesting thing looking at those photos and saying, dude, that guy's been an NFL tackle for over a decade now, and this is what this kid looks like standing next to him. So, yeah, fascinating prospect in-state in 27.
And I think you made an astute point when you said he moves well. He's not one of those taller kids who hasn't grown into his body or gotten used to the length of his body yet. He's a very adept mover. So there's going to be a curve that he's already turned that some people at his age and that size may not have already turned. This is what he said about his visit to Norman this weekend. He said, quote, "I had a great experience. I got to talk to all those alums, some of which Tyler mentioned. Got to talk to Coach Venables one-on-one. Got to talk to Coach Beadenbow. I got to talk to a lot of coaches, players, ex-players. I liked it." Say what he said about Bill Beadenbow's coaching. He was real down to earth, straightforward with his guys. I don't think he ever put them down, but he kept it real with them. Look, that's pretty cool. And he seems like a guy that likes to talk to a lot of people too. And, Oklahoma has really they've really done a good job, Tyler, with the alums being back and helping promote the program. That has to be a pretty fun thing for a potential recruit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And a 580 texter just texted in on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Saw him play against Weatherford. Very impressive. But no doubt, because what I've heard about Cooper Hackett is he was an OU fan growing up, man.
Yep.
And maybe he doesn't remember, and God, this just makes me feel old saying this, maybe he doesn't remember Sam Bradford winning the Heisman Trophy. But the kid grew up an OU fan. He knew who Sam Bradford was. He knew who Lane Johnson was there. And Teddy's a big name in Fort Gibson, and, for him to be there as well certainly doesn't hurt OU's chances. Look, he's a 2027 kid. There's a long way to go, I'm sure, in his recruitment, but the vibe I get from this one, an in-state kid, if OU really pursues Cooper Hackett, and my guess is that they probably will with his size and athleticism and just what could end up being there with him at an offensive tackle, but I would think OU would stand a really good chance with Cooper Hackett if OU decides, this is something that we really want to pursue here.
Yeah, no doubt. I think this is one that Oklahoma needs to get done. Maybe not get done early, maybe not too early. We just went through the whole saga with Jonathan Hatton, but you can lock this one down. I think he's already a fan. Now, I'm not going to hold it against him that he doesn't really remember Sam Bradford at OU. I was 7 when he won the Heisman Trophy, man. I don't really have very many memories of Sam Bradford at OU, so I'm not going to hold him too high into account. Let's go to the Rivals real quickly, the Rivals 250 that dropped, because there were a couple of OU targets that were on that list, Tyler. Where do the Sooners and their targets come in here on this new Rivals 250?
Daniel Odom, wide receiver commit, is your highest-rated commit. He's up 2 spots to 107. And who else? Well, there's one other one, and this kind of goes to a bigger storyline here. Jaden O'Neal is down 70 spots.
Really?
Jaden O'Neal is down 70 spots to number 153. But on the flip side of that, and boy, is this fascinating, Bo Bentley, I don't know if there was anybody who rose up the rankings more than Bo Bentley. 121 spot jump all the way to number 101 nationally. So you and I just had the conversation on Friday, and that's been ongoing. What's going to happen with Jaden O'Neal? What's going to happen with Bo Bentley? Who does the staff like more out of those 2 quarterback offers, though Jaden O'Neal is currently the one that's committed? Well, and we can talk about what this tells us, if anything. Jaden O'Neal, in the most recent Rivals 250 ratings that dropped today, Jaden O'Neal dropped 70 spots, and Bo Bentley rose 121 spots. So it seems pretty obvious to me that whatever the opinion of the OU coaching staff is, the national people seem to think that Bo Bentley's the better quarterback of the 2.
Well, Bentley's more of a dual threat than Jaden O'Neal is. That's the obvious. But, I mean, if you're Jaden O'Neal, look, I don't know as a player how much stock you put into these, because even though I was a basketball player, I played AAU, won a national championship, I was never on these rankings. I was not that good. So we'll get that out of the way now. I don't know how players feel about it, but if you're dropping 70 spots, I mean, that's a precipitous fall.
For a quarterback, too,
especially for a quarterback, Tyler. So, yeah, I don't know. That, to me, is something to keep an eye on. I know Auburn is still really pushing heavily to flip Jaden O'Neal. He's a priority for them. Florida State's in the mix, as we talked about on Friday. But we'll see. I mean, the Sooner fan base has already started to pivot to, hey, if Arbuckle likes Bo Bentley, then Bo Bentley's our guy. And I can't blame you for that. But certainly, it seems like Bentley, as of late, has seen a lot more upside.
And there were two Oklahoma kids on the Rivals 250. Norman North wide receiver Mason James down 16 spots, but at number 232. And then Taj Overton, Owasso defensive tackle, down 13 spots, but in at 224. Those were your two Oklahoma kids that were in the Rivals 250 for the 26 class.
And Daniel Odom is a guy that you're keeping an eye on. I know Parker has said on this show that he doesn't expect him to be in Oklahoma's class. So he does expect a decommitment there. I would not be shocked. Obviously, he and Jaden O'Neal are inextricably linked because they're friends from the state of California. So keep an eye on all that. That's gonna be pretty interesting. Recruiting Boomer on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Sure wish we could make an impression on tight ends or running backs that can actually pan out in the end. Yeah, no joke there. No lies detected there. All right, we're just getting rolling here on Locked In on a Monday. Tyler McComas is at Cavens Group. I'm Grayson Singleton. Coming up next, the OU men's basketball team has its first portal edition. Plus, I'm mad. As a matter of fact, I'm pissed. And I'll tell you why on the other side. Locked In, Grayson Singleton, Tyler McComas on the ref, the home of Sooner fans. Come right back.
Every day, 32 people in the U.S. lose their lives in crashes involving a drunk driver. That's one life every 45 minutes.
The victims aren't just numbers. They are mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters whose lives are forever changed.
From life-threatening injuries to years of recovery, the aftermath of a drunk driving crash can be devastating. If you or a loved one have been hurt by a drunk driver, you don't have to face it alone. Call McIntyre Law at 405-777-7000.
Now that open enrollment for healthcare coverage has ended, there's still several options to consider that just might benefit you. Need to purchase your own health insurance? Confused about Medicare? Considering offering benefits to your employees? Call the agents at Allison Insurance, featuring 70-plus years of combined insurance business experience. They're able to help clients avoid mistakes when purchasing individual or group health insurance. Call Allison Insurance at 800-580-5587 or 745-2968. They are the experts.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
Do you like to stand out in a crowd while wearing the best in OU apparel? The Jimmy Austin Pro Shop carries the best brands you can wear to work or even dress up events. Lines such as Lululemon, Travis Matthew, FootJoy, Greg Norman, Grayson, or Turtleson with the OU and Jimmy Austin logo are sure to catch everyone's eye. You don't have to be a golfer to shop at Jimmy Austin. They also do corporate special orders for you and your company. Call them today, 405-325-6716, or visit theougolfclub.com for more information.
The Artesian Hotel, Casino and Spa in Sulphur is the perfect getaway, nestled within a community rich in history. Stay in our luxurious hotel or treat yourself to our world-class spa facilities. Enjoy fine dining in our restaurant or try your luck in the casino. The shops at the Artesian offer upscale boutiques with a wide array of items to choose from. We have something for everyone. Plan your getaway on the Artesian website or call for details at 855-455-5255. The Artesian Hotel, Casino and Spa, 1001 West 1st Street, Sulphur, Oklahoma.
My son Ian was diagnosed with a brain tumor at the age of 16 months. We had no hope until St. Jude rescued us. He's alive because of what St. Jude has done. He's here because of the doctors who came before, their blood, their sweat, their tears, the knowledge accumulated and shared, with everyone else around the world. This is how we help kids beat cancer all over.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Coach Stoops here for Van Hoos Fence. If you want to work with the best local fence company and get championship service, contact my friend Mark and the Van Hoos Fence team. Van Hoos Fence gives each customer the most professional craftsmanship and competitive pricing in Oklahoma. From wood to chain link to vinyl to metal fences, the Van Hoos Fence team does it all. Contact the Fencing All-Americans at Van Hoos Fence, 405-735-1167 or vhfence.com.
Every moment counts if you're at risk or living with lung cancer. And anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. It causes more cancer deaths than breast, colon, and prostate combined. And while there may be moments where you question your next step, through it all, Go-To for Lung Cancer is here for you. We are your community. For screening, treatment, and survivorship support, Go-To is your go-to. Confronting lung cancer starts here. Visit goto.org.
Here's my question to all of you out there in text world. 405-651-3439 on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. This is my question to you. In lieu of the Taye Davis commitment to Oklahoma for men's basketball, what is the next portal addition that Oklahoma needs to make? What should be the priority? Tyler, I'll pitch the same question to you. Now, we'll get to it, and we'll get to that in just about 2 or 3 minutes, but I want to start the segment off with this real fast. So, I talked about this on Steely's show. I picked Duke to go to the NCAA Tournament Championship.
Man.
I said that on this show last week, and I was wrong. Duke blew that lead. They blew a 14-point lead, 8 minutes to go. And this was the epiphany I had as I was standing in Logie's on Campus Corner watching the end of that game.
Jeez, okay, yeah. Now I'm in. Let's go.
I figured that would get you, Tyler. Here's what I realized. Here's why teams like Kentucky, teams like Duke continue to struggle at the end of NCAA tournaments. And I don't know what took me so long to get around to this. Having a team where all of your leaders are freshmen it just doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't. Because here's what Duke has done. And look, we give John Calipari a lot of crap for not winning a title in God knows how long at Kentucky. This is what Duke, toward the latter run of Mike Krzyzewski and the first 3 years of John Shire, has worked with. 36 5-stars, 28 McDonald's All-Americans, 18 first-round picks, 9 top 5 prospects, 8 lottery picks, 7 top 10 prospects, 3 number 1 overall selections, Cooper Flagg will be the third, 2 number 1 overall draft picks. And they haven't won a national title in, 9 years? This whole thing is over. Constructing a team where your leaders are freshmen. Now, I know Duke had a junior in Tyrese Proctor, a senior in Sion James. I get all that. But Cooper Flagg came up small in some points. Con Knipple came up small at some points. Kaman Maluwach was bodied out of the paint, out of contention for rebounds by the older guys for Houston. It happens sometimes. But here's what ticks me off the most. John Shire is supposed to be this boy genius, and he's done a hell of a job with Duke. I give him credit for that. But that was a masterclass of being ill-prepared at the end of that game. I mean, Tyler, they look like they had never seen a full-court press.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt as to who the more talented team is. You could be the biggest Houston fan ever, and it's very obvious that Duke is the more talented team. But, yeah, how many rosters built with 5 stars or one-and-dones have won a national championship over the course of the past 15, 20 years in college basketball? That Kentucky team in 2011, 2012, maybe the only one, and Anthony Davis was on that team.
Yep.
And he had arguably the best single season in my lifetime of any college basketball player. They had Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. They had Terrence Jones as well. I mean, Anthony Davis is insane. But But yeah, man, like clearly Duke's the more talented team than Houston. But I saw this a few times from Duke this year, and one of the few losses that they had, it's they give the ball to Cooper Flagg late, and he'll just slip on the court and not even get a shot off. So they're incredibly talented, but they're not seasoned, and they haven't been in that moment together a whole lot. And a team like Houston, man, like they played a lot more basketball seemingly than that Duke team has.
Yep.
So sure, you get in that you get on that stage, and you get late in the game like that. It's not surprising that Houston pulled it out, but that game had no business being in the spot that it was with 3 minutes left.
But also keep this in mind, too. This wasn't a very battle-tested Duke team either.
Yeah.
We played the clip of Kelvin Sampson calling the ACC the Toy Poodle League on Steely's show, I think during the 1 o'clock hour. The last time Duke had a game within 6 points was on February the 8th, and they lost that game to Clemson. 77-71. So it's not as if this team had even been in the situation before, and they clearly were not ready. I mean, look, the players come up small. I get that. There was a just bogus foul on Cooper Flagg. I get all that. But they did not look like they had seen a full court press. They didn't look like they were even ready to take on the identity of Houston. Houston's identity is being physical and bullying you to the last second. And in those last 4 minutes, they look like they had never thought of, oh, man, Houston might make us uncomfortable in the full court. No kidding. They've been doing it for the last half decade.
Oh, I don't know if anybody else did this or not. It's probably just me being petty, but you called a young coach that failed in a big moment boy genius. And I'm like, that sounds oddly familiar around here. A young boy genius here against a defensive-minded head coach and have this big lead, and they find a way to lose the game late. Man.
I did not do that on purpose. Good pull by you. Okay, let's go back to the basketball portal, because Oklahoma got a commitment from Taye Davis, who left Notre Dame. 6'9", averaged 15 points a game. Here's why I'm most excited about Taye Davis, Tyler McComas, and he is a guy that you should be excited about. Every year he has shown substantial improvement. And again, I posed this question to you guys on the text line, 405-651-3439. After his commitment, what is the next priority that Oklahoma needs to shore up their roster in the portal? So hit us up on the text line to answer that question. We'll get to those in just a second. But Taye Davis, over his career, he's played 3 years of college basketball, Tyler. His first year, he was at Seton Hall, 2.8 points per game. He transfers to Notre Dame. Sophomore year, 9.2 points per game. Last year, 15.1 points per game. And he's still not a great three-point shooter, but his three-point percentages have started at 11, then went to 18, then ballooned to 30 this year. This is a kid who continues to get steadily and steadily better. And when I see that kind of track record of improvement, it may have started pretty low. But for a team in the ACC, he did it at a Power 5 level. He averaged 15 points a night. He can shoot the ball a little bit. He's a slasher. He can finish at the rim, which Oklahoma could have used against UConn. I like this guy, and I like where he could play, filling in sort of that Jalen Moore role that's going to be vacated with him going to the NBA.
Hey, my initial reaction was excitement after looking at two basic, simple things, not going back and watching the highlights or, what you did, went back and looking at his career, beginning at Seton Hall and all that. I looked at I actually looked at three things. I looked at 15.1 points per game as a forward, so that's two, at 6'9", 208.
Yeah. And
he's from Notre Dame. This isn't a get from High Point or a get from, Fairfield or some of the other. And there's really good players at that level. And there's really good players that transfer to Power 4 schools and have, great careers in college basketball. But not that Notre Dame was some great team last year, but I just looked at it as simple as, okay, they got a big guy down low that's averaging 15 points per game and from Notre Dame. Normally we're talking about getting guys from, some very low-level type of schools. Notre Dame's a recognizable basketball program, and he was very, very productive for them. I like this get with Taye Davis, that they got a little bit more size on their roster, but, it feels like for a while now, man, that we've been complaining about OU's lack of size in the paint and also their lack of ability. And, you'll have some guys down there who play really hard and try to fight for rebounds. But it's been a while, it feels like, since you've had a legit big guy that has really been able to give you some things offensively. And this isn't a 7-footer or anything like that, Grayson, but he is 6'9", 208, and he's a guy that averaged more than 15 points per game. So he can go get points for you. He can go get you a bucket. And that's what I like, is that offensively it feels like, well, OU's going to have to shoot a ton of threes to win this game. They're really going to have to fill it up from deep. They're not going to get much in the paint. And I'm hoping a guy like Taye Davis can help solve that a little bit for you offensively.
Yeah, no doubt. And also, he's got such versatility because of his size, and he is a really skilled guy to where you can play him as a 3 in a very big line. Now, I don't know if Oklahoma's going to have enough quality bigs to do that, but you really feel good about him as a 4. I mean, I feel good about a front line. Now, he's not a great defender. Let's be real with that. He has never averaged even half a block a game in college. So he's not a rim protector, but I do feel good about his length on the, sliding his feet on the perimeter and closing airspace on shooters. And I would feel good about him as a 4 and Mo McGee as a 5. But the one thing is, I would like more rim protection. If his rebounding numbers can improve, I think that's a really, really good get for Oklahoma. But so far, so good with your first portal addition. Let me spin the question to you, Tyler McComas, before we get to the text line. What do you think should be the priority now for Oklahoma in the transfer portal as they try to reconfigure this roster?
I think they need to go find a legit scorer. A guy that can score, with the ball in his hands, get into the rack, a guy that can shoot from the outside. And I'm going to guess, and I'm seeing a lot of responses here, that they need more size inside. And size inside in college basketball, guys that can protect the rim, guys that can rebound, guys that can score down there. That conversation is a lot like defensive tackle. You know that you need them. All the championship teams have guys like that, but they're really hard to find. It's a lot easier to find a guard that can shoot the ball from the outside. Like, big-time, legit inside guys are really hard to find. So you'll take as many of those guys as you can get, and clearly it's been an issue for Oklahoma to get those guys recently. But here's my question, and great news today that Mo McGee and Dayton Forsythe are both going to be back.
Yep.
But with Jeremiah Fears going to the NBA, who's the guy that creates? Who's the guy that can go get to the
Bingo.
rim and dish it and kick it and go score? And that's who that next guy or the big addition to me has got to be.
I mean,
who's your guy that's going to score and who's a legit point guard?
Just look at the guy. Look at the two teams that are playing in the national championship. Florida with Walter Clayton, who seems to just pull anything out of his backside whenever Florida needs it, and somehow it goes in. And then Houston with L.J. Cryer. I mean, there's your examples right there. I think your priority should be you have to go find a big-time scoring ball handler that can be the initiator of offense. Something exactly to the point of what Jeremiah Fears was this year. Because we can go on and on and on, and we have done so about the lack of size and how that's just going to match up badly with the SEC if you don't have size on the interior. But what could certainly wipe that out to an extent is having a guy like Jeremiah Fears who can go get you a bucket. So I think that would be my priority number one, and then number two would be, can I find a big-time center, maybe not a big-time center because that might cost too much money, but a serviceable big man who can provide some girth on the interior that I don't have to break the bank for. Let's go to the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405.
That's back-to-back shows together, Ro. I think you've said the word girth, so, I don't know if you're getting paid by the girth mentions or not. But Friday and Monday.
No, I would have rather that not have been mentioned.
Just know what you're going to get on the text line on the YouTube chat. You know what's
man, I guess I'm gonna have to defend myself from this one. John in Blanchard agrees with me. Big time point guard. Drew from Flower Mound agrees with you. A wing player, especially a good two-way wing too. Bryson Goodine was a decent two-way guy. I would have liked. I like a guy who could put the ball on the floor a little bit more than Bryson Goodine did, but a wing player, yes. Glenn from Nashville, can we get an architect to design a new basketball facility in the transfer portal? That would help. Jeremy from Memphis, this is a blast of the past. We need physical bigs like Eduardo Nahara.
Yes, who can take a shot in the middle of an NCAA tournament and still come back and play in the game. Love me some Eduardo Nahara.
Brian and Bixby, what does Porter have coming in the freshman class? A lot of wings. So you got two wings, and then you've got a big man in Kai Rogers. So Andreas Holtz is a wing. Kai Rogers, a little bit more of a big. And then there's one more that's slipping my mind right now. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Alec Blair. So there's your combination of wings and bigs there. Obviously, you want to supplement that with seasoned talent, but you do have reinforcement coming in. 1-star Colin Claremore just says more girth. What's a synonym for this?
Anything but that. I mean, you can say it. You just know what's going to happen on the text line.
I know.
It's just the way it is. And it's one of the beautiful things about this text line is they will not let a word like that go unnoticed.
I appreciate that. Sooner Mike says a big that can score. That maybe a playmaker. I think you're autocorrect. May have done something.
You need
there.
the Jeremiah Fears replacement is what you need.
But that's the big thing.
That's it.
That's the big thing is can you get a guard that can go get his own shot, a la maybe not make him at the volume that Walter Clayton is doing with Florida, but a guard that can go get his own shot and make big-time shots late in the game to take you over the top.
Yeah, I mean, because how many close games were you in last year? There were some games where you weren't in it. You know, the Florida game on the road, the Tennessee game at home. We don't have to go down the list of all the games that got blown out last year. But they lost a lot of close games last year. And, who did they often go to in, we need a bucket down here to win this game? It felt like Jeremiah Fears was the guy that they went to mostly. And so you just need someone that I think can attack the basket, pull up, I don't even know if I would say a wing. I probably would just say a really, really good point guard more than anything else, man. You need someone that can close, get buckets at the end of the game. Because we'll see how good OU is next year, but they're going to play in a lot more close games, especially in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And they need a dude that can go get you a bucket late. They didn't consistently have that guy, and others in the SEC did.
I'm going to speed through these here right fast. John and Ado, we definitely need a point guard to replace Fears. Brian and Bixby, does that freshman center come in having nope, not reading that. I just saw the end of that. Gunny, I see yours. Zach from Guthrie, I see yours. I'm not reading those on the air.
Brian from Maryland says thick. Use thick with 2 C's.
He did say thick with 2 C's. Hey, man. Sometime that'll help too in the SEC. A texture in the 405. This is interesting. Forsythe could be that guy. I'm not sold. I'm not sold on Forsythe being a primary part of your offense yet. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not sold. I like him as an ancillary piece. That I like. And I'm sold with him on that. Being an energy guy and a guy as an ancillary piece, a guy that the other team isn't game planning to stop, and him coming in and giving you 15 off the bench, I'm here for that. But him as a focal part of your offense, I need to see more. I'm not sold quite yet.
I think he's a guy that, in some games he can lead you in scoring like he did. He did that in the Ole Miss game, right?
Yes.
Towards the tail end of the year. But as a guy that you're going to every single game to be your leading scorer, I don't think he's that guy yet. I think right now he's a guy that's going to bring a ton of energy and a ton of effort. And I don't know if that is even – that's not a knock against Dayton Forsythe. At this point in his career, it may not be the best thing for him to run an offense through him. He might be way more productive, and his numbers might be a whole lot better if he is kind of that secondary piece next year.
No doubt. Chris from Knoxville, my savior, bulk. You can use the phrase, we need to bulk up at said position. Thank you, Chris. Locked in with Grayson Singleton and Tyler McComas here on the Ref Radio Sports Network. All right, coming up next, we will get into the departure. The departure of Devon Mitchell, and I'll make my national championship pick tonight as we close up this hour of Locked In on the Ref Sports Radio Network. Don't touch that dial. We're coming right back.
What's up, Sooner fans? This is all-conference safety Billy Bowman, and you're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Looking for a trusted, locally owned and operated roofing company in Oklahoma? Black Thunder Roofing is a top-rated Home Advisor Elite Service Award winner and recipients of multiple Angie Superior Service Awards. They can do it all. Black Thunder also does free inspections and estimates. Locally operated in Norman and Edmond, Black Thunder Roofing serves OKC's metro area south to Purcell, Noble, Blanchard, as well as Yukon, Mustang, Bethany, and Piedmont. Visit blackthunderroofing.com or call 405-473-8028 for your free estimate today.
That twinge in your knee isn't going to wait until Monday, and neither do we. At Orthostat, we've expanded, so you get better hours, better facilities, and the same great care. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Whether it's sprains, strains, fractures, or joint pain, from knuckles to knees and every joint in between, our same-day, affordable care gets you back to life faster. Visit OuchOrthostat.com to learn more.
At Confidence Ford of Norman, we believe in living up to our name. Our commitment to confidence is in everything we do. Whether you're searching for the perfect vehicle from our extensive selection of new Ford models or pre-owned cars, our dedicated team will help you every step of the way. Because with us, you're family. We're conveniently located at 825 North Interstate Drive. Confidence Ford of Norman, a Cavender Auto family dealership where confidence is Cavender.
Why did I wait so long to see a retina specialist?
Retinal disease can steal your eyesight, but it doesn't have to. Patients who seek care from a retina specialist have the best chance of preventing vision loss due to age-related macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy. AMD symptoms to look out for are distortion or warping of straight lines, as well as blurred or loss of central vision. Patients with diabetic retinopathy should seek treatment if they notice the appearance of spots or floaters or blurred and distorted vision. Visit seeforalifetime.org.
My name is Corporal Bradley Joseph Seitz.
Jerry Reed.
Kate Weber.
These are real veterans facing a real challenge.
I have PTSD.
And I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder can happen to anyone.
I was still in a war zone in my mind.
But treatment can turn your life around.
Treatment has really saved my life.
To learn about PTSD and how treatment can help you, call your local VA medical center or visit ptsd.va.gov.
Get hurt in a game? We tough it out. Feel exhausted? We push on. Feeling down? We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. But there are times when bootstraps aren't enough. When stress gets to us and we need to talk to someone about what we're really going through. So we're going to reach out, because sometimes mental health is not a one-person job. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Tired of feeling pressured by salespeople when shopping for auto insurance? At Right Way Insurance, there's no hard sell, just a clear, straightforward approach. We work with multiple insurance companies to give you the best options and rates with no gimmicks. You'll get the right coverage tailored to your needs, all while avoiding hidden fees and confusing policies. So if you're ready for a better experience with auto insurance, visit rightwayinsuranceok.com or call 405-607-6014 for your free quote today. Right Way Insurance, no pressure, just the right insurance for you.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Man, Tyler, Dawn Staley is becoming a meme.
Dude, she was like big mad.
Woo! Dude, she was. I texted my little sister. She's 16. By the way, speaking of my family, happy birthday to my younger brother. He turns 22 today. My little sister is a big women's college basketball fan, so I was watching the game and I was texting her, and I was like, man, Dawn Staley is stressing. And my sister comes back with me in all caps, but South Carolina is losing. My sister, for some reason, hates South Carolina just like many people hate the Chiefs. Okay. But no, that was a beatdown yesterday. UConn winning it. I was unaware that UConn hadn't won a national championship since 2016.
Yeah, because South Carolina had been really good. I mean, LSU, of course, right. Iowa here. Yeah, it seems like they'd fallen off a little bit. But here's the deal. They were a 2 seed, which UConn hadn't been a 2 seed very many times since Gino Auriemma took over. They had the best player on the floor. It's nice to have the best player on the floor. UConn had that with Paige Beckers.
Well, Paige Beckers wasn't even the best player on the floor yesterday.
It was kind of throughout the whole tournament, yeah. But, hey, OU women's hoop should have played UConn in the at least we would have gotten a close and interesting game. That's what it tells me.
Hey, man.
You know?
Look, if UConn reloads the way it does, it is very possible UConn and Oklahoma see each other in the Final Four.
saw a way too early poll, and it was OU women's hoops at like 7 for next year. So.
Oh no, Oklahoma is a bona fide Final Four contender going into next season.
I would agree, man. Gonna be a fun year for sure. Fun year.
It has not been a fun year when it has come to the saga of Devon Mitchell here at Oklahoma. The 5-star tight end that we found out came into the spring at 275 and didn't make it through the spring and is now no longer with the team. And I pitched this to Steely earlier in the day, Tyler. I wonder if we're going to start thinking about the whole reclassification to an earlier class and getting guys to college earlier. Now, look, does that excuse away all of the immaturity of Devon Mitchell while he was here? No, it doesn't, because you can find 17 and 16-year-olds that may have gone about things a little bit differently than Devon Mitchell did. But with certain people, I do think having the full 18 years at home, just like for some people having the whole 4 years in college before you go to the next level, will pay dividends. And look, it didn't work out. Hopefully he finds another spot. Hopefully he finds another spot, and that marriage is better. They can get more out of him than what Oklahoma definitely tried its hardest to do. I have no reservation about that Oklahoma tried its hardest to make this work. But in the end, I do think these sort of volatile results has to do with the fact that, sometimes you're dealing with kids. And you're dealing with a kid who left home a year early, already had some maturity issues that just compounded in college. So, look, I wish him all the best, but I do think some people may take a step back and wonder, should we really be encouraging some of these kids? I mean, Boobie Feaster did it in this class that we're talking about, the 2026 class, the wide receiver out of DeSoto. He did it. He reclassified into the 2026 class. So maybe we start to take a long, hard look at that and maybe wonder, is that really the best idea to keep doing going forward?
Jeremiah Fears obviously did it. I think basketball is a totally different conversation.
Totally different game. Totally different game.
I think it's much it's easier to do it. I think in college basketball than it is college football. Just physically. And Boobie Feaster is still, I believe, a 5-star in the 2026 class, even though he reclassified.
Yes.
So maybe at a position like wide receiver, it's still doable. But I think at a position like tight end where, hey, man, we want you to be a threat, going out and catching the football, but you're going to have to block out there on the edge. I think that's a really difficult ask to come in right away and compete when you should be a high school senior. So maybe some schools, especially with the roster limitations and everything else, kind of decide to maybe go against that or to not advise that as much. I was trying to think of some other players that have reclassified, left high school a year early, and what happened in their college football career. Quinn Ewers was one of the first guys to do it. He goes to Ohio State, and didn't he have like 2 plays or something like at Ohio State? He never plays there. Is there this long history in college football of guys reclassifying and having a great career? I know there's not many kids that have done it, but unless I'm missing someone obvious, I can't just really think of a whole lot of examples there.
Well, Michael and Marlowe just brought up a very interesting case that definitely was a success. Ryan Williams.
But again, that's at the wide receiver spot.
But that's at the wide receiver spot. Exactly to your point.
Yeah, I think that's probably the position where, like at quarterback, I would strongly advise it at quarterback to play right away.
Oh yeah, no.
But
go ahead. Sorry, Tyler.
Well, I just think at wide receiver, that's probably the position. I mean, outside of like kicker or special teams or something like that, that's probably the one where it could happen. Ryan Williams is also a freak. He probably could have showed up as a sophomore in high school and been making plays for Bama.
I mean, you think about what Jeremiah Smith did with Ohio State. That's a guy that could probably, especially with his body composition too, that's a guy who probably could have contributed if he had reclassified into an earlier class. A texter in the 405 says it happens on a case-by-case basis. Obviously,
sure.
and you're correct. It's going to depend on the kid, but I do wonder if that is going to be something people kind of do a double take with, especially in terms of, do we want to involve him in the game plan in some games in what should be their senior year of high school. Vandalay and Norman, I'm 36, and I still feel like I'm 35% immature.
Can relate. I'm way more immature than that, but right around the same age as you, Vandelay. You're 35%. That's actually pretty good. It's really good.
I feel like those of us on the radio have to have a shred of immaturity because I think that's what makes us entertaining.
I mean, what was the word we were using last segment?
We just did a whole segment on the word girth.
Yeah. Hey, I was looking at something today before the show. Who was OU's last commit in the 2026 class? Who was the last guy they got? Well, it's a certain wide receiver that probably has ties to your quarterback commit in Jaden O'Neal.
Yep.
So we'll see if OU can hang on to that or not. But it feels like things have been kind of slow for OU football recruiting, but I also feel like I thought that the last couple of years as well. So I looked at kind of on this date a year ago how many commits they had compared to now, just to see if that's actually factual or not, now that it's been over 2 months since they've gotten a commit. OU had 7 on this date last year to the 4 that they have now, but they got Malik Hawkins on the 10th. They got Trent Williams on the 10th. So they had about 9 on April 10th of last year. So April was really kind of the month where it started to get going for OU in the 25 class. I don't know if April's going to be that for this OU class or not, but certainly as we know, as we get closer to the summer and certainly into June and July, that's when it's going to pick up right now for OU football recruiting in 2025. But does it seem like there's anything super imminent in 2026 for this class, like someone that's really close to committing?
I really don't.
Doesn't feel like that, does it?
The first one would be that comes straight to mind would be Mason James, and that's because he's right down the street. But Mason James has, vetted this whole thing out. He's taking visits, and you presume Oklahoma's the leader for him, but I don't think there's anything imminent there. Obviously, Caden Jones would have been that guy. He already committed to Oklahoma State, so. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, this is the time. We're right around that time where we're going to start to pick these things up. There's 5-star kids who have already started committing. There, Chris Henry Jr., a 5-star wide receiver, committed to Ohio State last week. So you're starting to see them come, but it's going to be a little bit. Obviously, the one we're all waiting on, I think, and I think the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line would agree with me on this. The one we're all waiting on now is Bo Bentley. The 4-star quarterback from Salina.
Well, but that's the thing is if at any moment Jaden O'Neal decommits and commits to Auburn or Florida State or anywhere else, I mean, you've got 4 commits right now. And I'm not panicking about OU's 26 class or advising anyone else to get super worried. We're very early in April right now. But if that happens, you're probably going to lose half of your class. You're probably going to get 2 decommits if Jaden O'Neal is not a part of this class, correct? You agree with that?
I agree. Yes, I do.
So my other question with that, too, is, I always have to remind myself that, the way that you've evaluated recruiting or have talked about recruiting or looked at OU's recruiting class, this year is different than any of those classes you've ever talked about because now you have a GM. Well, how does that change things? OU took a small class last year. Are they going to take a big class in recruiting this year? Are they going to take a small class once again? Now that you have a GM and the evaluation process and everything that goes into that, do we really know at the end of the day, what the class size is going to be? How much, if there's going to be any less emphasis in recruiting? I don't know now that Jim Nagy is a part of the conversation.
1,000% agree. And these evaluations and these conversations are going to be different now that you have a GM in name and title. Couple of texts to close us out here today on this edition of Locked In. A texter in the 405. You wouldn't want to have a blanket policy. Some can do it, some can't. OU may have needed more diligence on Mitchell. That 1,000% correct. And I'm not advocating for a blanket policy here, but we may do some double takes is the way I put it. We may do some double takes when we talk about players coming in a year early instead of spending a traditional senior year in high school. And Monster Truck Guy, dignity is overrated, Tyler.
I agree, Monster Truck Guy.
I do too.
Very, very well said.
I do too. Well, Tyler, who you got tonight?
I'm going to take Houston. I'm not going to be bracket guy here. I do have Florida in my bracket, but I'm not going to be, I got to root for my bracket. You don't care about my bracket. I don't care about my bracket. Kelvin Sampson was the OU coach of my youth, and I hope he and Kellen and Quantis and Hollis all win a national championship tonight. That's who I'm rooting for. I'll take Houston to win in a epic championship game because I do think it's going to be close.
I think it's going to be close, too. I am going to be bracket guy, Tyler, because I had Florida in my bracket, and I like being right. So I'm going to take the Gators here. And look, Walter Clayton Jr. has been the best closer in college basketball during this postseason. So I think he keeps that going. I think Florida will not be fazed by the physicality that Houston is going to present. Tyler, appreciate you sitting in with me, man, these last couple of shows.
You bet. I think we'll do it again Wednesday of next week. So
yeah, we will.
Look forward to you using that word again that you've used back-to-back shows.
I will try not to use it. Parker Thune's back with us tomorrow here on the Ref Sports Radio Network. I'm Grayson Singleton. The Rush is coming up next. Stay tuned. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take it easy. Peace.